Hi guys, happy Friday. I'm Julie and we're going to do some yarn crafting today. If you haven't been here before, I am a blogger. I blog over at Julia's Coco and Coco, and I'm an avid knitter and crocheter. I love all the yarn crafts, so if you come every Friday morning at 10 Central Time, I'll be here with either a crochet hook or some knitting needles and some yarn, and we're going to do some yarn crafts together. If you were here a couple weeks ago, we started a Learn to Crochet series, and so far we've done the chain stitch, which is just the foundation for all crochet work. So today we're going to build on that a little bit and kind of do the next crochet stitch. So you'll need a few things as we get started with our Learn to Crochet today. You'll need some yarn. So this is just a medium weight yarn. It's got a little, if you look on it, it's got a little 4. It says medium. Just a simple little medium weight basic yarn. And then you'll also need a crochet hook. Today I'm using, so the crochet hooks have sizes on them. This style does. Sometimes they're not printed on the hook itself, but this one is. It's a size I, which is also a 9 or a 5.5 millimeter. Because different countries have different standards for their crochet hooks, it has all the different measurements on there. So whichever those apply to you, an I, a 9, or a 5.5 millimeter. That's what I'm using today. Hi, Mike. So we're going to do some yarn crafting and talk about learning to crochet. A couple weeks ago we did the chain stitch and we talked about how to hold our crochet needle, or our crochet hook, I'm sorry. So we will kind of review that again just real quick, and then we'll go on to what we have next. Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, you posted about learning to crochet yesterday. Well, here you go. We're going to learn to crochet today. I am right-handed, so that's how I'll be demonstrating how to do this. Okay. So if you are just joining us, we're going to do a single crochet. So crochet has a bunch of different stitches. The foundation for everything that you do in crochet starts primarily. There's always exceptions, but generally everything starts with a chain stitch, and that's what we did last time when we talked about how to hold our crochet hooks. Today we're going to do a single crochet, and I do have a finished project that I linked to in the video description, which is this really cute knotted ear warmer. And the only thing you have to know how to do to make this is the chain stitch, which we already did, and I'll go over that again, and a single crochet. That's it. So if you watch today, you'll be able to make this really cute headband. Because as we're going, I want you to be able to use what we're talking about and make some projects. And you can whip up a few of these and give them as holiday gifts. So, if you've watched before, you know I always like to talk to you at first. I want to look at you and see you. I realize I can't actually see you, but I want to talk to you when we first get started. But I know that for actually doing the crochet, it's easier if the video's on my hands. So then we get to have this moment together where I have to flip the camera around. So we're going to do that now. Ready? And you get a nice view of the ceiling in my office while I turn this around. Look at that. There we go. Got this nice white background that I pulled out. So hopefully everybody can see what we're working on today. Okay, so right here. Let me grab my stuff. Alright, so I said we're working with some medium weight yarn. I just got this at the craft store. This is a center pull, so I'm going to pull it out of the middle here. This is a new skein of yarn that I just got. I really liked this color. If you haven't crocheted before, I do really recommend a lighter colored yarn to start with. It's going to be a lot easier to see your stitches and count them. And then once you've been doing this for a while, then obviously you can get a little crazy with your yarn choices. But to start, a lighter colored yarn is very helpful. Good morning. Welcome everybody. Okay, so we're going to do, a couple weeks ago we did the chain stitch, and we talked about how to get, the yarn like onto the hook, how you start that. But we're going to review that real quick because it has been a few weeks. So we want to make a slip stitch to put the yarn on our hook. So we're going to I'll do a flat first. The yarn is kind of scrunched looking because it was in the center of our skein. As you see, I pulled it out and it's kind of a little bit messy over there, but that's why it's kind of looks like that. So we'll do our slip knot. So we've got that, and then you fold it over. We've got the short strand on top, and then I pull the long strand through, just like that. We've got a slip knot. It's a slip knot because it slips. Like that. Okay, let's do it one more time. Put it up closer to the camera this time. So this is my working yarn. It's what is connected to the ball of yarn. And then this is the tail end over here. So if I hold it up, and I flip it, and I pull that working yarn through, and I've got this little loop here, and I can put my crochet hook in and tighten that down by pulling the working yarn, and then I'm ready to go. Okay, so we talked last time about a couple different ways to hold your crochet hook. We have the pencil hold, which is similar to holding a pencil, and then we have the knife hold, which is like holding a knife. I use the knife hold, so that's what I'll be showing you, but there is more than one way to hold this, whatever's comfortable for you. To do the chain stitch, I am pulling down on this tail end kind of as I work to give it some tension. And then I've got the working yarn threaded through my fingers. I like to do it through my fingers like that. It gives me some control over how quickly or slowly, see if I tighten my fingers, then it doesn't really pull. If I'm holding my hand loose, then it slides through. That just gives me more control over how fast the yarn's coming. Sometimes for chaining, I might just do it over one finger. Some people prefer to do it that way as well. I've heard people say that they feel like their hand is too constricted if they do it like that. So you can certainly do it just like this. And then I'm holding this tail end with some of these fingers here. Okay, so I'm using the knife hold, so you could do the pencil. And then we're doing the chain stitch, and we did this a couple weeks ago. So if you missed that, I do have that video up on my YouTube channel. You can go watch that. It was recorded here live as well, so there'll be me kind of talking to people too, but you can go see how we did the chain stitch. Hi Angela, we are learning to crochet right now, so you totally can do this. Okay, so I'm holding my hook, and I've got my working yarn, and I've got the yarn kind of under the hook. I'm going to bring my hook down, grab the yarn, twist it, and pull it through. Right? Grabbing the yarn, kind of twisting this with my hand, and pulling it through that loop. So I've got a loop here on my hook, and I'm bringing the yarn through that loop. And that's it. That's our chain stitch. Grabbing it and pulling it through. Okay, now to make our headband, you're going to want to chain, I chained about 58 stitches. You're going to want to make sure you can either measure your head and then measure your chain stitch, or you can just kind of wrap the, love that yarn color. Yeah, this is linen is the name of this color. I really like it. I have some projects in mind for this color. You can, okay, so you can either measure your head ahead of time, so like the same, you know, flexible measuring tape like you would for sewing. So you can measure around your head, and then measure out your chain stitch to get the length, or you can just chain and then kind of wrap it around your head as you go to see if it's long enough. You are going to want to pull it tight. Don't have it fit your head loosely. Have it so like it's a tight thing as you're going. I'm so sorry, Linda. My condolences to you. Angela, I love to crochet. Yes, crochet is so much fun. Okay, so we're chaining. So far I have, see, we can count these little ridges is the stitch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 chain stitches on my, that's what I've got so far is 4. So I said we need to get to about 58. So I'm just going to go along. 7, 8, 9, 10. I have some buttons like that I laugh about that say don't talk to me, I'm counting. There is a lot of counting in knit and crochet, I gotta tell you. Angela, what am I making? We are making some really cute headbands. Ta-da! Some knitted ear warmers. Not knitted, crochet. It's Friday, guys. Crochet ear warmers. And all you have to do is know how to chain, which we're doing right now, and then we're going to learn the single crochet. 1 stitch, that's it. Okay. So let's go 10, 12, 13. And obviously as you do this more, then you're going to get faster. And we just want this long enough to fit around our head. This crochet hook is a size I or a 5.5 millimeter. I really like it for this worsted weight yarn. You can see as the yarn kind of just fits in really nicely right there. Okay. So you'll want to crochet long enough to fit around your head. Alright, so that's the chain stitches. And then we're going to do a single crochet. Okay, so at the end of your chain stitch, alright, let's get this near the camera. Your first, okay, so we talked about counting the stitches, right? Each little ridge right here, like, that's a stitch. That's a stitch. That's a stitch. That's a stitch. Each of these little bumps on top is 1 stitch. Okay? So, when you're doing the single crochet, at the end of your chain stitch, you're going to skip this first stitch right here, closest to the crochet hook, and you're going to go into this next stitch. And you're going to insert your hook right under that loop, right there. That's where we want to go. So I've got the yarn around my fingers. I'm skipping this first one. I'm going into the second one, right there. Okay, so I am just inserting my hook into that stitch. Then I'm grabbing the yarn just like I did for the chain stitch, pulling it through, pulling it through. That is a single crochet. So stick it in, grab the yarn, pull it through, and as you see, I'm also using my finger over here to kind of guide this yarn and pull that through. Now we have 2 single crochets, these stitches right here. Alright, we're going to keep going. We're just going to work down this whole, yes, all those stitches. We're going to keep going. Alright, so in our stitch, pull it through, and pull it through. If you guys have any questions while I'm doing this, please let me know. I'm trying to make this as clear as I can, but I know it's not the simplest thing sometimes. Okay, so as you can see, this was the ridge. That was this right here. Because we made the stitch into it, it now looks lifted up. Doesn't matter if it's loose. Your tension, okay, so when you crochet, there's something called gauge. When you make a pattern, usually it should give you the gauge. And that'll tell you I do a 4x4 inch square. And I'll tell people in a 4x4 inch square how many stitches I have and how many rows. So the stitches is this way for this piece, and then rows is how many times we go back and forth on top. And then you can adjust patterns or your hook size or different things to get the pattern to work. And that's kind of practice for both too loose or too tight. Everybody kind of has their own natural, what works for you. And so if you know that you crochet loosely, then you might use a smaller crochet hook than what the yarn calls for. If you crochet tightly, then you might use a larger crochet hook than the pattern would call for, or that the yarn would typically use to get the look that you want. So I'm going into each of these stitches and pulling my yarn across and through. So this is the single crochet. And I'm just going to have you guys watch this. Do I have knitting tutorials as well? I just started, so every Friday here I'll be rotating between crochet videos, knitting videos, and then just some general yarn crafting videos. This is our second crochet video, and we've done one knitting video where we talked about 3 different ways to cast on. Crochet and knit are kind of fun. Crochet only has, crochet has a bunch of different stitches to do lots of different things. Knitting really only has about 2 different stitches. I'm trying to figure out. If you have a specific pattern question, you can message me on my Facebook page or leave a comment there or email me. And I'm happy to try to answer specific pattern questions. What we're making, we are making a headband where you only need to know how to chain stitch and do a single crochet. So this is our chain stitch, and now we're doing our single crochet. You can see we're halfway done with this row. So just keep working on my chain stitch. I was saying, so there are a lot of different crochet stitches that we'll go into. Starting with the single crochet. Next time I'm planning for us to do the double crochet stitch, and that'll be in a couple weeks. Next week will be another knitting video. Oh, so last time with our knitting, I showed 3 different ways to cast on, which is just the way that you get the yarn onto the knitting needles. There are dozens of ways. If you're asking about gauge, yeah, gauge is just how many stitches and rows in a 4x4 swatch usually. I tend to make scarf. Okay, so scarves gauge doesn't really matter. Thanks, Erica. For things that you wear, hats, clothes, obviously gauge is really important because you want to make sure that it fits. Look at that, we're almost to the end here of the piece that we chain stitched. So we had these chain stitches and we're making single crochets into the chain stitch. And this will be the end of our first row. That means we've chain stitched and we've worked an entire row of single crochet stitches. So there we go. There's our single crochet. Okay. When you get to the end of the row, obviously now we want to go back and work the other way. So how do we do that? For a single crochet, you're going to chain one. Now we have the hook, or the loop that's on our hook. We have this chain one stitch, and we have this stitch here that's the last stitch of our first row. So those three things. The loop on our yarn, or on our hook, this chain stitch, and then this stitch. I'm going to pull my needle out just so I can gesture better. This stitch right here is the last that we made on that row. Okay, so then we are literally turning the piece around and we're going to go into that stitch, the last one we made, and single crochet. Alright? And then you make single crochets all the way back down. Now, you'll notice these look a little different than when we were single crocheting into our chain stitches, but we still have these ridges that indicate a different stitch. So that's how it's still to count. If you're looking from the top, they kind of look like V's a little bit. So I am going under, yes, these two, under that V for my single crochet. Okay, so holding it like this, I'm going to go under that ridge, which includes 2 strands of yarn, and I'm making a single crochet. And there's a little knot in my yarn. That happens sometimes. Alright, so single crocheting. I crocheted, how many did you chain? I chained about 58 for this headband for me. If you were here at the beginning, you can, as you're doing your chain stitches, see if I can lay those out. You can measure, so like you could measure your head and then measure, this is the wrong end of this measuring tape. Oh, there we go. Okay, you can measure your head and then measure your chain stitch to see how many you need to make. But if you're measuring, pull this, because obviously when it's around your head, it'll be stretched. You don't want to make this long enough unstretched, because then it'll fall off. So measure your head, and then as you're chaining, stretch it out to get the length that you want. An average woman, well, an average adult head, average adult woman's head is about 22 inches. So just, I know this is going off the camera here, but stretch it out and make sure that that's going to fit you. Another way would be to pick it up and wrap it around your head, wrap it around, and pull it and see, okay, yeah, that fits, I've chained enough. But I chained 58 using this medium weight yarn and a size I 5.5 millimeter. Debbie, yes, so after we do these videos, I put them all up on my YouTube channel, so definitely you can come back and watch it again, watch the end, watch the beginning, if you've come in late or had to leave early. Okay, sorry, I'm situating my chair over here. So, I'm going to pull that. So we're just single crocheting into each of these loops, not loops, ridges. Each of these stitches. My YouTube channel is Julia's Coco and Coco. There's a link to my website in the, when we're done and this gets posted, I'll have a link. I'll put a link to my website, and then you can get to me on YouTube to find the videos, and if you missed the chain stitch video that we did a couple weeks ago, it's on there, and the knitting casting on video is on there as well. So we'll just keep going. So the name of my blog is Julia's Coco and Coco, and you can search for that on YouTube too. Okay, so in each of these stitches, and I'm just single crocheting. I'm going to go a little bit faster. If you want me to slow down again, let me know. But I just want you to kind of see how this comes along. And then you can also kind of see the movement. Hold on, I gotta pull out more yarn from my center pull skein over here. So I've got this wrapped around my fingers, and that really just gives me the tension that I like. It's a little bit weird as I am watching myself do this in the camera instead of looking at my hands. It's throwing me off a little bit. So just go along under each. So I think we talked about gauge a minute ago, but that's just Kelly. Yeah, I'll post a link. So gauge is, they'll tell you, you know, in a 4x4 inch square, I made X number of stitches across and X number of rows high. So right now this is 2 rows tall. You can see those. So these bumps right here, that's the top of our, so if we kind of fold it, that was our first row. And right here is our second row. And then you can kind of see the height of that single crochet stitch from our first row to our second row. So I want to get to the end of this and show you the turning one more time, since that's the part that we have seen the least. Get my yarn to pull out some more. And this headband will really get you some good practice with this single crochet stitch. And they're super cute, and will make great gifts. I love giving handmade gifts, but they can be time consuming. So things like these headbands are really cute, and people really appreciate them. If you missed the measuring, if you want to give them as gifts, 22 inches is a pretty standard women's size. so you know how big to make your presents. Okay, here we are, almost to the end. Okay, so we've got these 2 stitches left at the end of this row. Now, it can be kind of hard to tell sometimes, like, is that stitch, you know, where's it, was that part of the row or not? It is. You also can count, especially as you're first starting out. I certainly recommend counting your stitches in case you've skipped one or crocheted 2 stitches, like, so right here I've got this single crochet in this stitch. Well, if I went into it again and made 2 stitches in that one, then obviously my headband would be getting longer. We don't want that. We want it to be nice and even. So, okay, so this is our last stitch. My point was just to count. You don't have to count every row, but every couple, just kind of make sure that you've got the same number of stitches that you intended or that you started with. Alright, so the end of the row, chain 1, because it's a single crochet, turn the work, and we want to go in, so we have the loop that's on our hook, this chain 1 stitch, and this stitch right here, which was our last stitch on the previous row. So turn it, that's where we want to put our hook, and single crochet in there. And then keep going. And I made enough rows so that my headband was about 4 inches. For me, that was about 18 rows. I pulled out a second ago a couple stitches just to see what that looks like. If you take your needle out and you pull on the yarn, obviously it comes undone. But if you made a mistake and need to go back, like that was 1 stitch that I pulled out, and here's the loop that I would put in, and I could go back and redo that if I needed to. Okay, so once you've crocheted several rows, you'll have a piece that looks like, sorry guys, this. Okay, so here's mine that I crocheted. It's 18 rows, it's about 4 inches. It is kind of, sometimes I didn't block this. Blocking is where you use steam or an iron to make it, or water, get it wet and stretch it, make it flat and nice. Because I know this is going to be a headband, I didn't worry about any of that. But this straight single crochet is making my yarn, making my piece curl up. Alright, so this is flat. And then I've got a tapestry needle. Oh, that's what I was going to show you. Wait, hold on. Okay, sorry. Let's pull this out. So, like if we got to the end of this row. So I made 18 rows, and that was 4 inches, which is a height that I liked for my headband. Okay, so let's say this is the height that I wanted, and I was ready to stop. I would cut the end of my yarn. So I had to go turn around and grab some scissors. Cut this. And bring it through. Ta-da! And that knots it off. So that's how you finish that. Okay. And leave a length long enough to stitch it up. Okay. Now we can come back to this one. So here's my piece. 18 rows. I've got my needle. They sell, I have these, it's kind of a blunt ended yarn needle. They have plastic ones, this metal one. Alright, then I just want to put the two ends together, and I'm just going to stitch this up really quick. So just make sure you're going through the yarn on both sides. This does not have to be pretty at all, because nobody's going to see this. This is just to keep it together. So I'm really just going around and around. And stitching this up. There is a way my needle fell off. There is a way to make this in a circle from the beginning, and we will get to crocheting in the round, but for simplicity you can do it flat like this and then stitch it together. So I'm just really roughly stitching this together to have these ends meet. Almost to the end here. See, it doesn't have to be pretty. Just need the sides connected. And then just knot this off. And that's good. Okay, now I have a circle. Ta-da! Alright, then where we stitched this, we're just going to scrunch it up and take some yarn and wrap it around, and that covers up that rough stitching that we just did. Oh, okay. So I'm using a worsted or medium weight yarn and a size I or a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. And I chained about 58 stitches. It's about 18 rows tall, which was 4 inches, and that was big enough to go around me. You could crochet it in the round. Because we're just learning how to do this, sometimes it's simpler just to do it flat. Okay, now I would want more wrapped around this, so you could take some more yarn and just, go around and around and around till you get that as thick as you want. And then this is what our finished one looked like. Ta-da! So really cute crochet headband, just using that single crochet. This one I got a little fancy with. So this one I used 2 different yarns. I used just a plain red for most of it, and then I switched to a sparkly one for this one edge. But you could do, a solid color here. You could do a different color to wrap around. Lots of different options. Really easy, super cute. Once you're done wrapping, I've knotted it, and then I took my tapestry needle and I slipped the end of the yarn through and snipped it over here. You can see that's the end of my yarn. That's where I snipped it, just to keep that all tucked in on the back side. And then you can just slip that on and off. I love headbands, ear warmers like this, sometimes even better than a hat, because then I don't have hat hair. And you just slip that on and off, and it's totally ready to go. I'll get this video up on YouTube as well, so if you missed any part of it, you can come back and catch up, or you can watch it again. If you have any questions, just let me know. Flip this back around real quick. Hi. Okay, yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any specific crochet things that you want us to cover in the future, feel free to leave it in the comments, send me a message. We'll get to it. Next week we're going to do knitting, and we're going to do the knit stitch. So last time for knitting we did 3 different ways to cast on. There's lots of different ways to cast on. If you want more ways to cast on, let me know. We can do another video with that. But we'll do knit stitches next time. You can find me on social media. Julie is Coco and Coco. And I'll leave some links. Let me know if you have any questions. Try it on. Okay, so I have this big bun thing in the back. Okay, here we go. Ready? This will be a little bit awkward. So I try not to totally mess up my hair. So you can do the little knot on top like that. Slide it. Oh no, I should do it the other way. My bangs are going all crazy now. Slide it over here to the side. So pull it down. It covers my ears. That's why I went with that 4-inch width. I wanted it to keep my ears warm. So super easy, really fun. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And I'll talk to you in the comments below. See you next week. Bye.